Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the LFC Transfer Room. My name is Damon. Tonight we've got Harmony, we've got Liam, we've got Nathan. It's glad to have everyone back. It's glad to have football back. You've got that decision gone now where you've got to choose between an England match, a Southgate England match, or watching the wall for 90 minutes. That decision's now gone. You are now back with the Premier League, back with Liverpool, and we're back on talking about Liverpool on streams and talking about the games that are coming up themselves. First of all, let's see how the guys are. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Been a busy week, but I'm doing all right. It's good to be back on.
It is good to be back on. It's good to be back on, and it's good to be back into Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah. Good. Was you talking to me there or Nahum?
How are you doing first? How are you doing? I'll come to Nahum next.
Oh, yeah, I'm good. How are you?
You know what? It's been a long week. We was on it last week, but like I said before the stream, it just feels like it hasn't been a week. It just
feels
drags.
a lot longer, doesn't it?
Break just drags, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely drags. Liam, how are you doing, mate? First time on the stream with myself. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing fine. I think as all of us suffering from withdrawal a little bit over the last week or so. Football over the weekend. Had to go to uni with a few friends, and surprisingly little to talk about in the absence of football, I will say. No goals, no assists to talk about, nothing like that. Just pure speculation. So get ready to get back into it this weekend.
You've got no other common ground with anyone?
No.
Paul says, hey guys, hello from Canada. Yep, it's cold in England as well. It's always cold. I think we have a week summer in England over here, and then we're back into it's winter for like 10 months then. So I think Nathan will know that on the shore of Liverpool. Some big news coming out today, actually. I know it's transfers have sort of died down, obviously, with the transfer window over, but there's still big news coming out regarding Klopp, big news coming out regarding Joel Matip, and a couple of players that we're linked with, and quite strongly linked with as well. So we'll start with a player that we've already got, and that could be going at the end of the season. That's Joel Matip. The Athletic's James Pearce has come out and said he will be leaving at the end of the season. His contract does expire this time, but we will sign a replacement next year, Nathan. We don't know if it's going to be January. We don't know if it's going to be summer. But which would you prefer? Would you prefer to get one in January and then let him play for the half a season?
Yeah, I think so. I think we would all agree and say we would have preferred it, 2 weeks ago, really, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
As much as I love Matip, and even at times he's probably been just as good, if not better than Van Dijk. He's been a great servant. It is time for him to move on now. I would have been all right with him leaving this summer, to be honest. Maybe get a few bob for him and then try and replace him with someone a lot younger. Mickey van der Ven, we were linked with him quite a bit. And he's gone to Spurs. To be fair, he's made their defence look a lot better. He's made Romero look a lot better. So I just hope whoever it is that we have got lined up, I hope we get them in early, or we get them in January. And, hopefully it's someone that we've all been talking about, Inacio or someone like that. And we can, just get them slotted in and, give them 6 months to just bed in, really, before Matip leaves. One thing I will say is I love Kanate, but he just seems to be getting these little injuries that are keeping him out for 2 or 3 weeks here and everywhere. So I feel like we need someone that's going to be good enough to come in and push both centre-backs that are starting, not just to be a squad player.
Name, do you agree? Kanate is obviously the main guy when it comes to partnering Virgil van Dijk, but we've said it time and time again, we need that Van Dijk sort of backup. We need that replacement coming soon for Van Dijk. But with Matip going, does that leave us exposed next season? Because we need it obviously a Matip replacement, but then we still need that Van Dijk replacement, don't we? We still need that Van Dijk upcoming replacement when he does eventually leave, because he's not getting any younger, is he?
No, I'd hope that we do something almost like this summer window. I'd hope that next season is the season of centre-backs, as it were. I think there's a dire need for new ones in both sides of the pitch. Even with Kwanzaa coming through the ranks, which I fear we're going to sort of rely on more and more with the old feels like a new transfer doctrine kind of thing. But, I agree. It's a shame that Matip's going, but it's, the standards have dropped a little bit. He's been fairly consistent over the years, but sometimes the spells of being consistently bad, unfortunately. And that's sort of been a slow but definitely downwards decline. And now he's reaching the age where he should be leaving. I think it definitely leaves us exposed, and it's on more than one level because it sort of highlights again the club's inability to manage players correctly. You know, I don't think you'd catch many other Premier League clubs sort of having this long, drawn-out history of relentlessly letting people leave on frees like we have. You know, losing so many players last season without getting a penny for any of them. And once again, you know, Matip, who is a good centre-back on his day, you know, you see Kalidou Koulibaly go into Saudi Arabia as soon as he falls out of favour at Chelsea. It's that kind of move that we should be considering for players like that. But you know, with that said, it definitely is time for him to move on. It's just a shame we can't get any money for him, I suppose. But next season, I would like to see at least 2 defenders of some sort come through the door. You're right.
I mean, it's just one of those things where we just got to bite your tongue and just replace him. You know, we've let Naby go for free, we've let Milner go for free. You know, we've got to do it sometimes. At the end of the day, if you're not willing to sell them a bit earlier on for less money, then you've got to bite the bullet and say, look, we're going to let them go for free, because we could have sold Keita last season, we could have sold Oxlade-Chamberlain last season, we could have sold Milner 2 seasons ago, but we didn't. We chose not to, and we had to let them go for free. So the same will happen again with Van Dijk. Like Paul said, sorry, not Van Dijk. Don't worry, guys, Van Dijk is not leaving. Matip. Same with Paul says here, Nathan. It gives us time to get the right player available in January, and it's great. We don't have to panic and wait till summer. Again, I'm glad this news come out now, and it doesn't surprise us the way Fabinho and Son came out of the blue. It gives us time to maybe get a replacement in. Like you said, January is perfect because it gives them then time to build into the team. But it's ideal that we know the news now, innit?
Yeah, I think we've proved before that if the right player comes along, we will get them early. Look at Luis Diaz; he was literally on the verge of joining Spurs, and then all of a sudden Liverpool are just like, yeah, straight away, we'll pay what they're paying. We want it done now, and he was done within days. Dominic Szoboszlai has been heavily linked all summer to Newcastle. His release clauses within hours of running out, and all of a sudden we do that. I think for certain players we will do it. I agree. I think we do have to kind of wait for the right player, but I also think that I personally don't want to be waiting until the summer. If Konate keeps getting injuries this season, we have to buy someone in January, in my opinion. I just don't think we can risk it, because let's say Nat Phillips finally leaves, the poor lad should be getting game time somewhere else. He should have been sold 2 or 3 years ago. Reece Williams is nowhere near good enough. Quansah, or however you pronounce his name, looks a good player, but he's like 21. He's played next to no senior minutes. Van Dijk, as good as he is, we've seen last season. I know the midfield makes a massive difference this season, but he can't do it all on his own. Konate's just not reliable. Matip will leave. I don't know what to expect. I just hope we get something done in January. Even if it's someone that's not like ready to start, even if that is like the young player, if that is someone that is going to come in and grow under Klopp and get given a little bit of time to bed in, and say we go through in the Europa League, which we should do, give them some minutes in that. Say we go through in the the League Cup or the FA Cup, give them minutes in that, give them the last 10-15 minutes in the Premier League. But I feel like we have to get something done in January as well, because it's not a case of we need one defender this season or next summer.
I don't know.
I'm using my mic. I thought that was mine. I'm not sure it wasn't mine. Yeah, so it's a case of we don't need one next summer. We need more than one. So I would be hesitant to leave them both till next summer, just based off. I think I'm happy with the business we've done this summer with the midfielders, but I do think that I don't know if we signed our first immediate targets. I think we probably missed out on some, and I just think in terms of what centre backs are out there now, I think centre backs are more scarce than what the midfielders are. I think there was actually quite a lot available this summer, so be interesting to see what we do anyway. And
putting ourselves in a position as well, now, if we could be in desperate situation where we've got to bring a centre back in, and that's where the prices get bulked up. But they're exactly the same way we was this season with the midfielder situation.
Yeah,
we were so desperate to need a midfielder. Likes of Brighton were happy to say 100 million for Caicedo. Likes of Lavia, Southampton were saying 50 million for Lavia, and they were happy to be stubborn because they knew we were either going to cave in or not get them, and either way they win. Boom Boom says here, Harmony, can't let everyone go for free. Disastrous business. But why are we letting everyone go for free, Harmony? Because for me, the only reason I see we're letting people go for free is because we're keeping them for squad numbers. Klopp needs to get backed in the transfer windows, and if he don't get backed, he's got to keep the players that are hanging around. Otherwise, he's got no players. If we could have sold. Clearly, didn't want Oxlade-Chamberlain. Clearly, didn't want Keita because he would have played them if he wanted them. So for him to sell him on for like 20 million is not enough to pay for the players that we need in. That's why the backing needs to happen, doesn't it, Emily? Because we shouldn't be allowing players to go for free. Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah, no, it's true. Everything you said is bang on. It's difficult to let players go if you don't have the squad depth in the first place. To be honest with you, because if you look at it, let's say he gets rid of Matip and he doesn't bring anybody else in. That's one player less that yes, he might not be reliable. Yes, he might be injury prone, but that's still one player less that you have in the squad that you can kind of bring in if just in case there is a big injury, just in case a player gets a knock and he needs a rest for a couple of games, Matip can come in and do the job, you know. So yeah, the backing needs to be there, but at the same time, what the comment said is right. We can't keep letting players go for free because all we're doing to ourselves, especially with the owners that we have, and we know we are sell to buy club, which don't make sense to me, but that's the case that we're in right now, is that we need to sell players to be able to bring in players. So if Klopp, and I feel like this is another thing I'll put on Klopp, is that if you know that certain players are not reliable, and let's say they have like 2 years, 3 years left in the contract, and they've been in the club for like 2-3 seasons, and they're not doing anything for you, and they keep getting injured, you gotta cut those ties and be like, listen, I love you, mate, but you gotta go because I need to bring in somebody that's gonna be more reliable. I need to bring in someone that's gonna be available. I need to bring in someone that's gonna be there for at least 20-30 games every single season. You know, so that is something that he has to, you know, start cutting ties with players. Yes, I see the loyalty. Yes, I understand that, you know, these players have been there with you from the start, you know, and they've grown with you, they've won things with you, and you're loyal to them. But at the same time, there's only so far that loyalty can take you. And you got to get to the point where you got to be like, you know what, I'm sorry, enough is enough. You got to go because I need to start bringing in players that are going to be available, that are not going to be injury prone, that are not going to be like one of those ones when I need them to perform, they're not there because they're injured. So that's another thing that we've got to look into as well.
Nahum, Sir Oswald says here, our midfield rebuild proves that we should not be fearing players leaving. But have we had a full rebuild yet, Nahum, in midfield?
You know, it's a tough one. I think we've got a lot of young talent in, and at that brilliant young talent, people like Szoboszlai who've sort of shocked in sort of the opening few games where they've been people talk about Gerrard regen, that kind of thing. I mean, it's he is a cracking player, and McAllister seems very faithful, very reliable. It's like his performances, it's, you know, in versatility terms, are extremely valuable. And then there's obviously a lot of sort of talk about where Gravenberch fits in, and we've replaced Milner with the sort of the likes of Endo. So there's an argument to be made that, like for like, there's a lot of new people coming in that sort of fulfill the old. You know, they sort of brought in the new guard, as it were. Whether we have a title challenging rebuild, whether there's sort of this depth that's now almost astonishing in nature, where there's so many people, you're spoiled for choice. That remains, you know, to be seen, because there's people who we have in our midfield that are still developing. People like Harvey, who can change a game, but is realistically only 19, 20. Bajcetic is still 18 years old, could be generational, but we don't know. We could be injured between now and then. It could be a very abrupt end to his career. Jones is, you know, seeming much better, but once again, injury prone, bit unreliable. So whether we have that depth remains to be seen, because obviously the new midfielders have to prove themselves in the positions. A few good games obviously doesn't make a season, doesn't make a few years. And then there's a lot of development to be done in the background. It's sort of a touchy one. We might have done a brilliant job this window, but it's something that's going to have to be sort of monitored closely, at least in midfield anyway.
Rondo Red says here, how do you guys feel about Giorgio Scalabrine from Atalanta? He's 19, already starting. 6'4", Italian media thinks he's next. Regarding players coming in then, Nathan, Matip replacement, is anyone in your mind at all? Obviously, we've been looking at left side centre-backs all summer long. It's now right side centre-backs in terms of Matip. So is anyone that's covered your mind at all?
Not really, no, because we haven't really focused on that so far, have we? Thought like, I can't remember what it was in the chat, put Hincapi, and that would be what I would have went for. And I'm going back to it again, but watching Mickey van der Ven last season, didn't see him a lot, but seen him enough to know that the fee that Spurs are paid for and how well he's played so far. I think he paid like an initial fee of like 35 million. In today's market, when we were getting quoted like 100 million for, well, supposedly quoted 100 million for like Levi Colwill and players like that. I just don't get why we haven't done it. And then Inacio as well, is like he's just signed a new contract. His release clause has got to buy like 20 million or something. I just feel like I just don't. I think a couple of years ago, I think if we had Michael Edwards, I don't think we wouldn't be in this position now. I know we haven't always done the business where we've needed to. We know that we didn't sign a midfielder for 3 years or something like that. But I just think we've left ourselves vulnerable by not signing one already. And yeah, I don't know. All the ones that come into my mind anyway are left side to centre back, just because the boxes are playing free at the back.
Be looking at them,
yeah. Can't really think of many right side centre backs that I would like us to go for, personally.
If we did have Michael Edwards though, mate, I think we'd have got 160 million for Fabinho and Henderson.
Probably, yeah.
Like Charlie said here, make sure you do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you are new, that is, please leave a like. If you are in the chat, please leave your comments as well. We like to bounce off your comments and put them on the screen if we can. And if you want to say some questions, ask some questions. If you want to say your opinions, please do in the chat. Klopp is 100% committed with the community. We know it. We're going to go on to Klopp in just a minute about Klopp and Nagelsmann, the news about Nagelsmann. But before we do, we're going to go into midfielders, Harmony, a position where we seem to be talking about every single summer midfield. And just when you think the transfer news is over regarding midfield, we'll go back on to more. And the first person I'm going to start with is Pedro Goncalves from Sporting Lisbon, centre midfielder. He could play pretty much anywhere in centre midfield. Another versatile player again for Jurgen Klopp. According to Ojoko, who is I think it's a Portuguese outlet. Liverpool are very tentative for his services, but there are many English clubs after him. So should we look at Portugal again as a transfer in Harmony? Because it's not really done as much harm as it in recent years.
No, not at all. But my only concern when it comes to the player, I can't sit here and say I've watched him loads. The only thing I remember from him is that goal that he scored against Arsenal in the Europa League, and I'm sure they remember that. That was a beautiful goal. But that's the only thing I remember from him. But apart from that, I've really been keeping a tab on him or watching him. I watched a couple of highlights this before we came on, actually, just to kind of refresh my mind on exactly what the kind of player we might be getting if we go in for him. I don't know. I just feel like he's like another body that I don't feel like we need in that midfield, to be honest with you. We got basically players. We got 3 players in our team that can basically do what he can do. So I don't see the point of us actually bringing him in, because we got 3 to 4 players in that midfield that can really do the job that he basically does. And do we actually need another body that can do all of those roles? I don't know. I personally don't know. For me, I'll focus more on actually getting a 6 than trying to get another body that can do that whole role with, when you have McAllister, Slobosai, you got Gravenberch, you got Jones, I don't see the point of us getting all of these midfielders, because at one point, yes, the competition is nice, but at one point it gets ridiculous to the point where, like, now even these players probably look, okay, but you have me that can do that job. Why do you need someone else? What does he, what I mean? It just makes no sense to me. So yes, I understand why they're looking at the player, but at the same time, I feel like we should be focusing on looking at 6. So that way we can actually give like McAllister the freedom to start playing the role, the position and the role that we actually brought him in for, instead of him playing the 6 and sacrificing his game for the team. Even though he has been playing well these last 2 games in that position, it still doesn't change the fact that he needs to be up on the pitch, like further up on the pitch, rather than sitting back and trying to dictate plays. For me personally, if we're going to look at somebody, we should look at Kone. That's someone that can play the 6. Yes, he can do the 8, but he's more defensively minded, and he can play that 6, and he can be more comfortable. And I feel like that would be such a great way to start off the January transfer window. Go in and get him, and if you're still going to get Andre, bring in Andre. And for me, that's what I would do. But I get why we're looking at the player, but at the same time, I don't feel like we actually need the player. Yeah,
as Hannah just said, then Kone is a very, very good example of a player that we could also get at a cheaper price. I think like 20 to 25 million. He was. Him and Andre, to me, like Harmony, I think are the perfect sort of options to bring into that number 6, number sort of hybrid 8 role sort of thing. Goncalves is a different one. Is like you said, it's another body, a bit like Gravenberch, a bit like McAllister, for £68 million £68 million release clause. Is it really worth pushing that and just maybe focusing on elsewhere?
I mean, I think when it comes to the player, Goncalves, I think it seems he's playing as like a 10 and a left wing for Lisbon. Like more recently, that seems to be the majority of his performances. It sounds like spending that much money on him would be completely useless, to be honest with you. It just sounds like buying Fabio Carvalho for 4 times the price. You know, because we've still got that guy, you know, Portuguese left winger 10. Like, you know, realistically, maybe the quality's not right there now, but we don't play with a dedicated 10. We don't, and we have more left wingers than we care to mention. You know, it's there's no point in buying him, quite frankly. And if we were playing him in midfield, he'd be lost because he's got a really similar profile when he's on the ball, like in how he plays, a really similar profile to Dominic Szoboszlai. Like the way he can dribble, the way he can play a pass, anything that he can do, Szoboszlai already fulfills that sort of duty. It's an unnecessary one at a more expensive price than we got Szoboszlai for, so I don't really see it happening. As for the need for a number 6, I don't think I like the idea of Koné. I did at least during the window, but he's a bit injury prone. It would be, you know, risky, but he could be a monster on his day. Andre, I've always liked the idea of, especially for the price he's at, you know, plucking a player straight out of South America seems like a good move for the club to be moving towards that kind of transfer business. Personally, I've got the controversial opinion that the search for a 6 is over. I don't see the need to bring one in, and it's not one that most people agree with. But the way we were playing in our last game with this sort of floating 6 role, where we have 3 players who can theoretically play in that role, floating between each time, allowing each one to go forward. Because obviously Curtis Jones plays in a double pivot for England, or at least has done. He was dropping deeper whilst McAllister moved off to the left. Suppose I dropped deeper if McAllister went forward, and it sort of never-endingly floated between the 3 players. I really like that, especially with Gravenberch's sort of inclination to be a box-to-box 8 rather than a 6, but he can sort of theoretically play there. I feel like it fits the amount of versatility we have in the midfield. Getting a dedicated 6 might be wise in Andrew, maybe, but I personally just like the idea of this sort of new weird floating role.
2 questions, Liam. Number 1, can we win a title without a 6, a proper 6? Maybe it's not even a proper 6. Maybe that's someone like Koné who can. Majority of players are more defensive minded than what we've got right now. And number 2, are we ruining the best out of the likes of McAllister if we're doing that?
I don't know if we are. I think so. First question, I'd say you're probably right. We do need we need that role in the squad somewhere. So Andre, I really like the idea of. He's not you know the best like destroyer or anything, and he's more akin to a sort of Thiago type, but. Someone like Koné or Andre, they're 2 different profiles, but if they got brought in, I think it's, you know, greater range across the squad. So sure, yeah, that's going to make you much more likely to challenge for a title, especially if you need a game with some sort of like an anchor in midfield. That'd be great. And, you know, obviously we'd all love to have something like that. Whether they spend the money to do it is another question entirely. I think sort of regarding the second question, I don't believe McAllister's talents are wasted there, considering how often he played as part of a double pivot at Brighton. Playing deeper is not maybe his natural inclination. He likes playing as a 10, maybe on the left side. I think that if you allow him to sort of maybe float a little bit in and out of that role, it's a trade-off, I think, because he can launch into a challenge and he can sort of provide a good base of the midfield and he can ping a pass at long range. I'd have to see him in the sort of preferred role he's been in, which he sort of failed to actually fully slip into in our squad, but I'm not sure it'd be fully wasting his talent considering how well he performed at Brighton.
As Charles said here, make sure you do leave a like on screen. We've only got 20 likes, guys. We've only got 20 likes. I do my best on this channel, right? Even if I forget my mum to tell you how much I do my best, then I will make sure we get to we've got 73 people watching. We need at least 50 likes, please. And if we get up to 200 likes, that'd be even better on the stream as a whole if people watch afterwards.
Can I just ask a quick question?
On,
sorry. Do you not think that the reason why McAllister done so well in that double pivot was because he had Casado next to him, though?
Yeah.
He literally had someone there that Liverpool needs. Like, yeah. I don't know about you, but I would never, ever want to see Dominic Szoboszlai have to do any type of role like that. He needs to have the freedom to go and just do whatever he wants. McAllister needs the freedom to have the protection of someone next to him to allow him to get the ball and play the dangerous passes to open teams up. I agree with what you're saying. Like, the floating midfield can and has worked in a sense, but I just think the system that we play, the system that most teams play, you need someone that's going to do that job. Like Man City have got Rodri. Rodri is Rodri's not. I wouldn't say Rodri's as big as a destroyer as what people think that Liverpool need to go and buy. I think he's someone that is.
He's like Alonso, isn't he?
He's that good because he's great on the ball as well, and I think I get what you're saying, but I think for it to work, for it to have a double pivot. Now let's go into the recent tactics that we've been playing. Trent's been kind of playing in a double pivot, so if that is this going to be? Are we going to do 4-3-3? What like it depends what the system is, and I think having a 6 will allow so many of our creative players or so many good players on the ball to just do what they need to do. And McAllister, for me, when we played against Chelsea, I know we had it hard because he had Gakpo playing left centre mid, but he looked a bit lost. And I know obviously as the more he gets into that, more he plays that. Was it Chelsea? It might have been another game, but I think it was Chelsea anyway. I do feel like that you are losing the aspect of him that you will get to have if you've got someone else next to him that will basically give him the freedom to go and do what he wants. And the good thing about it is we're buying players like you've just said that can kind of rotate in the midfield and do a little bit of everything, which is absolutely fantastic. But you've also got better aspects, in my opinion, of not the defensive side of the game. So McAllister's better on the ball. He's gonna find that pass. Szoboszlai is just gonna be an absolute beast in the midfield. Gravenberch, again, we don't know exactly what he's gonna do. Whether he's gonna get told to drop back or whatever. So it's gonna be an interesting one. But I do feel like having someone next to him will be a massive benefit.
I mean, Sir Oswald makes a good point here. We can challenge for a title, but we'd have to score loads of goals. It would be like 2014 where we had Suarez and Sturridge and Sterling front, but you got to deal with it defensively. I know also we've got a better defensive way, better defense than what we had back then, but I've just literally done a video on it. I think it's out this week, some point, where how important the CDM is, and especially in the title winning side. That is probably our biggest mistake this summer, not getting one in terms of going for the title, because for me, you need those players that are going to do the dirty work. You need those, especially in games. You're talking the big games, the City games, the Arsenal games, the Man United games, because that rotation in midfield may not work, especially when they've got the counteracting with like Rodri on the other side. You're just going to get outplayed in midfield, and once you get outplayed in midfield, you're going to lose the game. And we can't afford to lose those games if you're on a fight for the title. We'll get top 4 pretty much easily. I can guarantee top 4 now with the players that we've got. I think we still could do a title challenge with the players we've got, but that number 6 is absolutely vital. If we can get Andre in, if I'm saying Andre as an example in January, I think that puts us to a title-winning side. That could lift us. That could be that Diaz signing that we had in the quad-run season. How big that is. It's absolutely pivotal. I mean, if you go back over the years, I've said it before. If you go back over the years, look at the title-winning sides: Roy Keane, Man United, back into Chelsea sides: Makelele, Kante, Rodri, Fernandinho, Vieira, Gilberto Silva. They've all got 6 as destroyers in that midfield that will dominate that game. They don't have to be specific destroyers, but they need to be proper defensive-minded players. They need to be that mindset of that defensive player, because I saw Curtis Jones in midfield in pre-season. He was wandering upfield. You can't do that. If you play that position, you can't do that. That leaves massive gaps, and that will cost you goals, and they cost you points. And you can't afford to drop points against this Man City side. Neil, 100 viewers, yes, we do, and we only got 28 likes. Come on, I will get my mother on here and tell you how much I work hard for this. Yes, that doesn't work with me, Harry Maguire, because I see you. The other 72 are sitting on their hands. Come on, guys. Yep, there you go. Sitting on your hands. Please, it doesn't take long. Doesn't take long just to press like. Doesn't take long to subscribe. We get your notification bells on. We are live every single night. We've got podcasts, 2 podcasts out now. Myself and Rigo do You'll Never Talk Alone, and we've got Richie and Kev doing the Room podcast. Going on to a different midfield then, name. I'll sit with you, mate. Nico Barella, a player that gets our chat quite excited, to be honest, especially Jay. Jay may be watching this with a different set of pants ready to talk about this. Nico Barella is close to an Italian Inter Milan exit, according to Radio Romanista, which is actually a Roma radio channel, a Roma newspaper. So it sort of contradicts this specific player because it's Roma. I can imagine them making stuff up just to spite Inter. But he's close to Inter Milan exit, and the main reason is because Liverpool are insistent of getting him.
I mean, I'd love to see him at Anfield. Fundamentally, I mean, but then again, once again, it's one of those players that's more versatile, 8 to 6 role kind of thing, and it would fit in our squad. I mean, obviously, like you said, we do need his 6. I think that is genuinely necessary, but for the games where teams give us more respect and we're allowed to be more expressive with the ball, I love the whole idea of having a group of do-it-alls, jack of all trades sort of thing. So he would be great. I mean, for that money, you have to question whether that would be, moving away from the focus of needing more centre-backs, more defensive cover. So you'd have to be, there would have to be an understanding that it wasn't a trade-off. It was more of a, centre-back plus Barella. But I think genuinely that would be a good transfer, I think, as long as it wasn't taking away from the really necessary portions of the squad. It's
prioritising certain things in the name. If you go get him, make sure you do get your 6 first before you do get someone like that.
Yeah.
Paul says, I disagree with you. They remember when Alden, Klopp, Gravenberch, and Jones doing the same job. Let me ask you something, Paul. When did Liverpool turn into a title-winning side with Ronaldo midfield when we got Fabinho? What about you? What about you, Harmony? Do you think Barella's a no-go? We shouldn't bother going there. No, but again, like Goncalves, it's just another player that they can play 8-6. We need to focus on number 6, don't we?
Yeah. We have other priorities that we need to focus on. The defense, a potential Salah replacement that we need to start looking at now. If he starts to go next season, a left side centre back, probably a right side centre back, depending on with the whole Matip situation. And yeah, so for me, a Barella would have been a good signing, or a great signing this summer. If we got him instead of McAllister, I would have understood why we got him, because the guy's absolutely incredible. Then it would have made more sense. But the fact that we've got McAllister now, the fact that we've got a Slobodan, now we've got a Gravenberch, got a Jones there as well, it just don't make no sense for us to really go out and spend that much money on the guy, because he's not going to come cheap. Regardless, even let's say if these rumors are true and that he's available, you're looking at least 80 to 90 million for the guy. You're not going to get him. You're not going to get him cheap, and that money can be used elsewhere to really strengthen up the squad and bring a bit of competition in certain key areas that we feel like has been lacking that competition, and players probably might be feeling complacent because they know that there's really no one else on that bench that's going to challenge them if they don't perform. Like if you got someone like a Hincapié, a Verge will not want to have a bad game because he knows Hincapié can come in and do a job. Someone like that just lifts up the game, lifts up the players' moods, and makes them want to perform much better for the team. I'm trying to say. So for me, I love the player. I wanted him this summer, but obviously it wasn't possible. But now I really don't see it. It just makes no sense, to really go in and get someone like him.
Competition is key, isn't it? It's absolutely key. We saw it with Tsimikas coming in for Robertson. Robertson somehow got a burst of energy and played the best he had had in a year or so. Again, when Diaz came in, Mane got a new, found a life really, didn't he? I know he went up front, but he sort of got that spark that he needed. Competition makes everyone else better around them. These players want the players to come in. Van Dijk and Canate's come out and said it. We need players to come in. Klopp himself said, "I want more players." Someone like a Barella, is it worth getting him? He's not going to be a competition sort of player, is he? He wants to be number one. You better going off, getting someone like a Kone, a 2-round, for example, to give that a competition, aren't you?
Yeah, I think I agree with Harm. He said, if it was the start of the window, just gone, and he was an alternative to, or not even an alternative, say he was the main target before McAllister, you'd understand. But if we're going to be perfectly honest, the way I see you signing any midfielders next summer, if it is someone like Andre to replace Thiago, and if we sell someone, and I think with the players that we brought in, they're not going to leave, so it'll either be Harvey or Curtis, who you'd maybe see them quite happy to sell because of the English tax and stuff like that. And I think they're good players. I think Barella's a fantastic player. I think everyone would agree with that. He's great, but I just don't think it's what we need. I'm hoping this time next year we're sitting here and we've already got 2 centre-backs in. They've settled in. They're pushing Verge and Konate, and Stefan Pacetic has had a great season. This season gone. And we're sitting here and he is the number 6 or whatever he is, and we don't need to go and buy a midfielder. I think that's the ideal thing for me anyway, because I think we forget sometimes how good he was last season when he played.
Would you like him to keep him at 6, or do you think he should push on to an 8 though? For me, I think he played unbelievable at 8.
I can see why people think that because he looks so good on the ball. We've seen the goal against Newcastle where he brings the ball and then he turns and he gets something started. But the good thing about it is he's at such a young age now. He's at the position now where he can the sky's the limit. If he wants to play centre mid, if Klopp wants to do that with him, we've seen what Klopp's done with specific players. Gino Wijnaldum was mentioned before, come in as more of a goal scoring midfielder, and he got changed completely into someone that was a workhorse in the midfield. And I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I don't think we've seen enough of him to know what his best position is. Like we've mentioned on our previous streams, when he come into the first team, he was a centre back. He played centre back the other day for the under-21s in Spain. So he obviously he either is excelling at that side of the game, the defensive side of the game, or that's where he's seen to be better for certain managers. And it just all depends. Last season, would he have played the 6 if Fabinho wasn't as poor? Probably not. And then when he did go into the 8, he played quite well. So, but I hope he's good next season. I hope he has a good season. I hope he gets a lot of minutes. And I wouldn't be completely against him playing the 6 if he has a good season anyway.
Elio says here, Liverpool like that quality DM that free up the room for the rest of the midfield and let the midfields play the best of teams. Exactly that, Elio, because if you have a proper DM, watch Trent fly, watch these other midfielders play the best they can. McAllister gets to link up with the forward players, and we saw that in pre-season when Jota came out and said, look, I've not had this in a while, I've not had this link up in a while. I was so excited with that McAllister move. And Szoboszlai has already shown what he's capable of going forward, and he works off anyway going back, but the best of McAllister, the best of Szoboszlai is going forward, and we need that proper DM there to cover everything else and allow these players to be the best that they can be at. Obviously, they can play defensive. McAllister can play number 6, but for me, he's just not getting the best out of him, personally, for me. And before we do go on to Jurgen Klopp talk, please do make a like, hit a like button. I think we're like 2 likes off now, 50 likes, something like that. Please just, it doesn't take long to like the stream. And please subscribe if you are new. Who are your perfect midfielders, Liam? If you were to go next season, 2 midfielders to fight out for that number 6 role, number 8 role, who would you go for next season? Is Andre the one for you in January?
What? If I could sign 2 midfielders next season, who would I buy?
2 midfielders, you pick.
Oh,
money's no problem. We've got FSG.
Right. Okay. I think on the short list, it has to be Manuel Ugarte. I think he's got to be there. I really liked him for Liverpool before he went. That would have been good. Manuel Ugarte from PSG. So I always liked Florentino Luis. I think maybe he's a bit young. I don't know if I'd put him in, fighting out top 2. I mean, obviously, if money's no problem, go for Rodri. But I think, being realistic, Ugarte is a really good option if there was no money. Money wasn't a problem, sorry. And then, yeah, probably someone like Florentino Luis, I imagine, sort of on the younger side, that kind of profile at the very least. Those are 2, if Ugarte was free, it would be a realistic transfer. But Luis is at least a realistic.
Ugarte would have been the perfect one, wouldn't it? I think everyone wanted Ugarte before, and we missed a trick again with that one, just like we did with Tchouameni the season before.
Unfortunately.
Ugarte's been class as well so far. He's done really well for PSG so far.
I've seen him play the other day,
If we had sold Fabinho, Henderson beforehand, we could have got him. But we shouldn't have to do that. That's the problem. This is what I'm saying. We shouldn't have to do that. We shouldn't have to sell players to buy players in. We should have gotten out and got Ugarte being the number 1. Harney, what about you? Are you playing 6?
Listen, if they're offering me the money that they're offering, I'll definitely take it. Honestly, get myself fit again. I'll definitely take it if that's the case. Why not? But for me, I just want to touch on with the whole Ugarte situation. I can't believe we didn't go for him. Now, how did we mess up that deal? Honestly, he would have been such a perfect 6 because he's mobile, he's fast, he's strong, and he can get up the pitch as well if he needs to. I just don't know how we messed up that transfer. That's what we wanted to add, to be honest with you. I just don't get it.
It's the money again, though. It's the money. That's what it is. We didn't have the John Henry was about sales.
I think what it was, we were talking to him behind the back without the club knowing, and when they found out, they basically said that they're gonna report us to the board that we're doing something we're not supposed to be doing. That's what we actually backed off. and walked away from the deal, apparently.
Harassment of a player, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Monday, no problem. John Henry would have heart attack. Well, there you go then. That just says everything you need to know. So I've just pretty much summed it all up there. Defensively, how do we settle with McAllister and Szoboszlai? Answer that, Liam. How do we settle with those two defensively? If we didn't get a 6, how do we settle defensively with those two?
Well, I mean, you could always make the argument that we put Endo at the base of midfield, but I like Bajcetic just coming through the ranks. I think he could do a really good job as a DM at some point, obviously in a minor role for this season. If I had to have those two, but maybe no Endo, I'd put McAllister in the deeper role, obviously, then maybe have someone on the left side of day. I think he really can do that, but like Nathan said, I think it would be better if there was a more destroyer sort of anchor role. But yeah, I think, like I said, I like the idea of a floating expressive midfield for good games where they give you more possession.
Against those small teams, you got to pick and choose those games, don't you? I think,
Definitely.
like I said, the likes of we could chat again against Wolves this week, for example. Yeah. You're going to dominate most of the ball, so it doesn't really matter who plays that sort of midfield. Anyway, we don't need those big players in there. They're taking the ball back as quick as we can. If Thiago's fit, I don't think he is, but I'd like to see him this week against Wolves. But if Bajcetic's fit, I'd like to see him back in personally. But
for sure, yeah.
A lot of names going out. Andre Kone, Fofana, the beast, obviously in League Earn, who was definitely a player that we've looked at in the past year or so. Jamie says 5 more likes to 50. Please do it for Damon's mum. Exactly that. Do it for my mum. Otherwise, she'll be coming on here making a statement that how hard I work for this channel. Let's go on to the biggest news then before we do wrap up. The biggest news of the night. I'd say it's the biggest news of the night because it's the biggest news at the moment with Jurgen Klopp, Julian Nagelsmann as well. Germany job is available. Japan smashed Germany the other night. Was it 4-1? I think it ended up being. And the job is now available for Germany. So Klopp is obviously the number one man. It's obvious that Germany were going straight for him without any, blinkers on, straight for Jurgen Klopp. It's obvious. Nagelsmann's another one, however. Having left Bayern Munich, is now free to join wherever he wants. According to us, this to me, I read this earlier and this made no sense at all. Sport BILD actually said Nagelsmann will be managing Germany for a short while until Jurgen Klopp takes over, and they'll swap roles. So they'll swap roles where Nagelsmann may go to Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp to Germany. Does that even make sense, Nathan? Would that even work in the world of football right now?
I don't think so. No, I think there'd be too much logistics in it, wouldn't there, to get an agreement with the
in Germany.
First of all, the actual managers themselves.
Yeah.
I'm not too keen on Nagelsmann either. I don't know. People might disagree, but I think if Liverpool are going to go for any manager after Klopp leaves, I want to see De Zerbi come in. I think he'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
He would be mine up. Like if you're not getting Guardiola or someone, it's got to be him. And I personally think Klopp will stay. I think he'll sign a new contract. I feel like he just loves it too much. Like I was speaking on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and people were saying like the connection between him and SFG, he must like them and all that because he stays, and it's like people just completely ignore the fact that he loves the city, he loves the club, his missus loves the city.
Loves the fans, yeah.
I've got a big feeling he'll end up signing a new contract. I think if we do what we need to do next summer and we have an all right season, and he could see something, thinking he might go to himself, you know what, I've got over 3 or 4 years in me, yeah, I'll do that.
Like Salah. Salah.
Exactly. I think Salah could stay as well, and I think possibly he might sign a new contract. But in terms of the initial question, I could never see that happening. Why would he start? What happens if Nagelsmann has an absolute stinker and gets sacked by Germany? It just doesn't make sense, does it?
To me, I read it and I thought, why would someone join Germany knowing they're like second best, knowing they're going to get taken over, just to join it makes zero sense. I know Sport BILD as a big name and a big company, but to me that absolutely makes no sense. That article and that report. But regarding Jurgen Klopp, if we were to get taken over tomorrow, Jurgen Klopp would sign a new deal tomorrow night. I'm telling you now, if we were to get taken over by an ambitious owner, he'd sign a deal tomorrow night. If he knew he had ambitious owners behind him to back him to be the best manager he can be, he won't believe in 2026. There's no chance. He would see gold dust at the end of the rainbow there. He would see gold coins. He would know that he can get to those gold coins because he's worked under shoestrings and won every single trophy. Imagine an ambitious owner to back him. Imagine. To me, how many?
Sorry, 1 second. My dog is just going off. If you just want to make it a question, I'll be back in a second.
No worries. Nahum, Klopp, is it inevitable he does join Germany in the end, or do you think, like Nathan said, he could just extend to Liverpool and stay as long as he can?
I'd love him to extend. I don't know about him going to Germany. I mean, obviously he's rejected their recent advances and their ones in the past. I think if he's sort of that's his end goal at the end of his career, then there's, you know, what matters is between now and the end of his contract really at Liverpool. If there's, because if he's onto something good, if this new squad is, you know, lighting up the Premier League and he's inevitably going to be winning more titles, leaving in 2026 would be a questionable move from him. As for Nagelsmann, I don't know about that news. I think it sounds slightly incredible. I mean, I wouldn't want Nagelsmann taking over. I think there's only really one man for the job in the regards, and I think people overlook him. I think you could have a sort of Shankly-Paisley situation. I think maybe Pep Linders could take over when Jurgen Klopp leaves. I'd love for that to happen. Mr. Intensity himself, that'd be great.
That would be an interesting season because he would have to put
on Twitter would be mad.
I think it'd go meltdown. I think it'd go an absolute meltdown. I think he'd need to put up or shut with Linders. Do you think Linders would take that sort of roll up though, Nahum? Having Klopp just left that role, he knows Klopp's big boots to fill. Do you think Linders would be up to the task of doing that?
I think personally, I'd sort of love to, let's say, go inside of his head and see what he's thinking about that kind of thing. But I think from an outsider looking in, it would make sense. No, like he knows all of the players. He sort of he's the closest thing to Klopp you could possibly really get in the market in terms of so he already knows the players. He already has the tactical knowledge of how Liverpool play. And if Klopp, sort of recommends him for the role and passes on the mantle, then why wouldn't he go into that kind of thing? I think outside of Pep, there's very few people who would assume the role so easily. One person I've got lined up, I don't know about De Zerbi, but my personal sort of favourite for outside of the already established club management for taking over would be Postecoglou. I think Ange would be great. Sort of, loves a good 4-3-3 with inverted fullbacks. What a guy. I mean, he's a Liverpool fan, said himself he got into football because of Shankly. That kind of takeover I would be in full support of. But right now, Pep Linders is definitely my main man for the takeover.
I think it's pretty much certain that someone like that would drop Tottenham on the heartbeat for Liverpool anyway. Even if it wasn't
for sure, stepping stone.
He would drop at Tottenham, and Tottenham, that just says where you are in terms of footballing world right now. People would actually drop you just like that for someone like us.
For real.
Anyone else? How many? Obviously, there's De Zerbi, there's Pep Linders, Graham Potter possibly. I know he had a bad time at Chelsea, but he's still a decent manager. Eddie Howe. There is some decent managers out there. I mean, I think James put Xavi in there. Xabi
Alonso.
Xabi Alonso for me, yeah. I think Xabi Alonso is the one that everyone will be looking at. I think would be the favourite, I presume. With Xabi Alonso, he's actually playing a good attacking football at Bayern Leverkusen as well, and they're actually dominating matches quite easily. I've been watching them for like last year or so. I've been wanting to keep an eye on Xabi Alonso. He's played some good football. He would be the ideal candidate to take over Jurgen Klopp, wouldn't he? Because he's got that same style. He's been in Germany for all that time. He's got that Spanish flair. And when Spanish managers know how to, especially Spanish players, those mastermind players, Pep Guardiola, Xavi, players like that, they know how to manage, don't they?
Yeah, Xavi will be my second option. My first option would be the Brighton manager. I just love the way his team plays. Honestly, his team it's like, I'll watch them than watch Man City play football. That's how good they play. Honestly, the way they break down teams, the way they break out the press, if a team is pressing them, the way they break out of it is absolutely beautiful to watch. And every single time I watch them, I'm thinking, imagine he had a squad at Liverpool doing that. That would be such an unstoppable force. He has the quality players. He has that. Like, imagine he has Salah. He has Van Dijk. He has all of these players that Liverpool have on into that Brighton team. it will just be so beautiful to watch, and it'll be such a great like it'll be so fun to watch Liverpool. Even if you lose, you'll just be like, oh my god, we played so well. Look at you know what I mean. So that would be my first option. But Xavi, definitely, I think he's a young up and coming manager. The only question I'll have with Xavi is, can he handle the pressure? Because there's a big difference between the club that he's managing right now and coming to Liverpool. He's a Liverpool legend. Obviously the fans will warm up to him, the players will respect him, but at the end of the day, if you don't perform well on the pitch, it doesn't matter if you're a club legend, because you see what happened to Frank Lampard, club legend or whatever, but they kicked him out. You know, so that is the only thing that worries me about Xavi, is that would he be able to handle the pressure? You know, and if he can, then yeah, why not? But for me, he's the Brighton manager all day. I just watch his the way his team plays, and I just imagine Liverpool players just running around like that. It would be such a great.
At least Xabi Alonso would know what pressure he's getting himself under, because he's been there, done that over here. You made a good point about Lampard doing it at Chelsea, but I think with Lampard, I think it was ego. I think it was ego of him. I think if John Henson takes up management as well, I think he'll do the same thing. He'll jump at a big opportunity as soon as he can. I think Lampard took the wrong opportunity where he should have stayed at Derby, or should have moved up a step at a time rather than go straight to Chelsea. It was a big too much. I think Gerrard did it the right way. Obviously, it didn't work at Villa, but he did it the right way. He went from Rangers to Villa, and he was taking that step up before, because Gerrard wouldn't want to manage Liverpool if he wasn't good enough. He wouldn't want to do that. He's a fan first before anything else. So yeah. I think Xabi Alonso's smart enough to know he's good enough for a club, for example. I don't think he joined Liverpool if he knew he wasn't good enough. Who is next manager if Klopp loses league? We are talking about that at the moment, Richard. The Zebras looks like a perfect candidate, and Xabi Alonso, but Name's gone for Pep Lunders as well. So there's definitely a debate there to be had. I think he also put up here saying, "Hi there, Nathan. Please, Last Lanes and Wolves preview lineup breakdown. We will have a preview tomorrow for the Wolves game. Me and Rigo actually did a preview on both matches on our podcast. You'll Never Talk Alone podcast, which is out now. It came out yesterday, I think it was. It's on all podcast audio streams like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, and it's also on YouTube as well if you look it up. Let's have a look one second. Before we do go then, guys, we've got last 10 minutes. Oh, we've got another question from Richard, actually. What do you think of the Europa League squad? Yeah, we'll go into the Europa League squad. We'll go into the game on Saturday first. We'll talk a little bit about the game on Saturday. Wolves half 12 kickoff. Nathan said it earlier. Half 12 kickoffs are a killer. We saw that last season. We didn't win one game last season. I think we drew 3 or something like that and lost 4 out of the 12-30 kickoffs. Don't have a good record in them. But I said it on the You'll Never Talk Alone podcast, Nathan. It's the worst game to lose half 12 kickoffs, because you know that's the weekend, then that you're down for the weekend. But it's the best game to win in it, because you just sit back and watch everyone else.
Yep.
It's one of them, isn't it, with the 12:30 kickoffs. I'm excited because we've had the international break, so you get to watch Liverpool straight away, which is great. But like you've just said there, if you lose, then you're looking back and you're just thinking, it's ruined your weekend. And I think we're in a good position at the minute where, like, if we get the points on the board as well, we can start. I know it's only early on in the season, we can start putting pressure onto other teams. Because I think at the start of the season, I think some people thought there was a chance that we would, like, I think people would be saying that we'll get top 4, but I think some people would have been maybe they'll get 3rd or 2nd. But I think now, if we keep going the way we're going, I think people might actually start thinking, you know what, they might be able to push on and do something a little bit more than that. And I said this before we went live, like, I still have a bit of PTSD with the 12:30 kickoffs and the way we, like, Wolves specifically last season in the cup games as well. Like, the only thing I will say is they've obviously lost a few players. They've lost the Neves and Nunes and Basilio and players like that. So hopefully we can just get 3 points and just hopefully watch other teams drop points over the course of the weekend as well.
They've always given us in our game, Wolves. No matter who, no matter how poor they've been, they've always given our games. And the Origi late goal beat them last, I think, 2 seasons ago. The title winning season, we had to rely on an offside. That I don't think that was offside. If I'm honest, I think it was Pedro Neto or something like that got offside against us, and it shouldn't have been given offside. I think it was his armpit offside, which I don't agree with at all being offside, by the way. Yeah. But yeah, it's always a tough game as Wolves, but we should be beating them, shouldn't we? I mean, we should be putting 3-4 past these. With the attack we've got, with the players we've got at the moment, the play, like Nathan just said, we've lost Nunes. Neves, Matinho. They've lost some big players. We should be giving it to them, shouldn't we, this Saturday? You're on mute, mate.
Sorry. If we can get a result, on Saturday, it will just be perfect. I don't care how many goals we score, or if it's a 2-1 game, 3-1 game. As long as we win the game and we can just put it out of our mind and relax, enjoy the rest of our weekend, that's all that matters. And if we can put in a good performance, because you got to remember, we were on the high when we went to the whole international break. And the players, obviously, certain players left when they went to international break. They performed really well. It's just seeing how the players come back and how they really starve. I think the first 20 minutes will tell us exactly what kind of mood the players are in, what kind of mood the team is in, So if we can start off the game, the first 20 minutes score a goal, that will put them under a lot of pressure. And that kind of helps us as a team relax a little bit more, because we don't have to keep pressing on. We can kind of sit back a little bit, let them come on to us and just kind of hit them and just break them up, pick them apart when it comes to that. And we cannot, the only thing is that we cannot go 1-0 down. That's the one thing we cannot do. If we go 1-0 down, it's going to be a tough game, because they can just literally sit back throughout the whole game and just soak in pressure. So, yeah, that's it for me, being truly. As long as we get a good result, I'm fine with it. I'm good.
That was the problem was last season, where we went 1-0 down, 1-0 down, I think 12 games in a row, wasn't it? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That killed us straight from the back. And when we didn't have that right motivation last season, we were never getting back into games. We didn't have that grit that we had winning the title winning season, where no matter if we went 1-0 down, 2-0 down, we were winning that game.
Yeah, exactly.
This season we look a bit better, though, don't we? This season we're out of the traps. We seem to be wanting it. It's obviously not the Chelsea game, but every other game we've been. Actually, the Bournemouth game we started quite poorly. Didn't we? We went 1-0 down in that, but every other game, pretty much, we've been here and we've been ready to attack these teams. How dangerous is it going 1-0 down against Wolves this week? Obviously, they're a defensive side normally. They play 5 at the back. Hard to break down. How important it is to start off the back straight away this week in the first 20 minutes? Like Aaron said, we need a goal in the first 20 minutes. Do you think that?
I think it's less important than it was last season. I think with the players we have now, the sort of mentality in the club and the energy that they have, it's less important than it was, but obviously always good to get off on the right foot. I think, people talk about Joshua Kimmich mentality videos, but I'm sort of on the borderline of making a Dominic Szoboszlai mentality compilation. That guy's like screaming in the 93rd minute because it went out for a throw-in. I think that guy will get you 3-4 goals at the end of a match if he needs to. He's those kind of players we brought into the club where they can't seem to let anything go. That leaves us in a position where if we did go 1-0 down, I'm confident we'd bring it back. However, I'd always like to be against teams, especially like Wolves, where you shouldn't be having that sort of problem immediately. I'd always like to be setting off on the right foot.
Richard, you are putting a lot of questions in the chat. I feel like I'm doing it and want to be in an area. I put this one up. This is one I wanted to bring up anyway. I think where will Liverpool finish this season and will they win the trophies? Going back to before season, I've seen Man United fans, right? I bring up Man United fans because they talk a lot of yes, right? They've been putting Liverpool. This is pre-season. They've been putting Liverpool out of the top 4. They've been putting Man United coming second. I've seen one Man United. These are like big channels, by the way, big Man United channels. Not mentioning their names. They're putting Man United top. They're putting Man United second. They're bringing Liverpool out of the top 4. Why were they doing that, Nathan? Because as far as I know it, we beat them 7-0 last season in a poor season. And there's no way they can rack up the points that we did. At the end of the season, they're going to run like that the way we can. There's not a chance they can go on and run like that. And to be challenging City for the title, you need to go on and run like that, don't you?
Man United, not all of them, but a lot of Man United fans are just the losers. And, go back. Well, they should go back 15 years ago or even 10 years ago before, in the Hodge Arena. We were the same. It's the way football works. But I don't know about you, but Man United fans last season were so happy with how well they done because they won a trophy and got top 4. But I think that was the fact that they had every single home game possible in all the cups, and they had.
They played no one in Carabao Cup.
That's what I mean. Yeah, the hardest game that they had was against Newcastle. Newcastle dropped a stinker. Simple as that. They were playing really good up until that. They got top 4 because of how poor the league was in general last season. Was just just like West Ham were pretty much close to being in a relegation battle. He just scraped 40 points. They would have seemed like he'd expect to be getting, challenging for the European spots. Chelsea was terrible. It's crazy that we even finished fifth for how bad we were last season. The fact that we, with how terrible we were, managed to score 7 past them. Like, I was watching, someone shared a post on Twitter a couple of days ago, and it was the full Liverpool against United 7-0. And you know what? I sat there and watched the whole thing. And on the commentary, you can hear Jamie Carragher nearly crying with tears as we score like this, the 6th and 7th goal. And regardless of what Man United fans think, I call me deluded all you want. I would take that 7-0 last season over getting top 4 for one season and letting them have their little things, because you know what? Everyone will talk about that for years to come. And it's still relevant now. They are they were not good last season. It's followed into this season. And I'd be very surprised if they get top 6. They look terrible.
The way the Man United fans downplayed that win was the worst. It was the worst in the game itself, because
Gary Neville was the worst for it. He was sitting there on Sky Sports saying Liverpool didn't actually play that well. It's like you've just been beat. The record score ever by your biggest rival, and you're trying to say it wasn't like that bad. It's embarrassing. Like, if that was, say, Ten Hag was say this was this season, around the end of the season, it's enough to get sacked for it. That's how bad the score is.
And it happened a few times last season with Man United. They've got beat easily quite a few times. So it wasn't a one-off. And I think Graham Souness had got Gary Neville like this, because Gary Neville says, "Oh, it's a freak result." It's not a freak result when it's happening quite often.
Yeah,
they scored. They considered 5 against Man City. They considered like 4 or 5 against Aston Villa or something like that.
And Brighton and Brentford as well.
Each times. Yeah, Brentford humiliated them at Brentford. Was it
even the Man City game? I think it was finished 5-2. That was, the 2 goals from Man United flatters them. I think they scored the penalty, and Martial scored the one, I think. And that was at the point where Man City were coasting and subbing off De Bruyne, like Haaland and all that. You know what I mean? Like, the game's done, we'll let you get a couple of goals. He was terrible. Genuinely, if we've been in a normal season and teams were playing to 80% of their standards, not even 100%, Man United wouldn't have got top 6. That's how poor they were. They got outplayed so many games last season.
I said after that 7-0, instead of downplaying it, really look at your team, the mentality of your team, because we've had some shit players and some shit teams over the years. There's no way we lose 7-0 to Manchester United ever.
No, not a chance.
We beat them with David Ngo up front. We've had way worse teams. In fact, David Ngo scored against them, for Christ's sake. We've had worse teams than they have right now. It would never be human. Wouldn't you get beaten 3 or 4-0? Even the team when we beat them 4-1, 4-1 at Old Trafford with Torres and Gerrard masterclass. We had a worse team back then. I mean, we had a good, decent span. We had I think, was it Desena came on and scored? Aurelio scored. You know what I'm saying? We had piss poor players, and with no way and instead of downplaying it, they should have looked at the mentality of their team. They've now given Bruno Fernandes, who threw the towel in, by the way, in that match. Imagine Roy Keane on that pitch and throwing the towel in. There's no way. If he was on that pitch, he'd have booted Bruno into Stan's head.
Yeah.
They've now got him as captain, and they're surprised to see where's this mentality gone. Why are they losing to Arsenal the way they did? Why are they getting battered? Because your mentality is running through the team. Your captain of the team is a crybaby. So when it comes to finishing in the season, where you after the start of the season, Liam, I know we've had only 4 matches, but has your feeling changed throughout the month of where we're going to finish in the league? Do you think we can title challenge? Because I said we could have come second anyway before.
I think, definitely these past few games have definitely swayed my opinion on a positive trajectory. I think with a bit of a look on our side, we could challenge for the title. I think it's genuinely possible. As I think if Arsenal was last season, then we definitely could this season. I think it's they've picked up a few injuries. I think, regarding the whole United thing, they've dropped off a cliff. Like, they looked terrible against Wolves, and they sort of, scammed a goal kind of thing. Should have had their keeper sent off. With the top 4 last season, if you think about the Newcastle, United, Arsenal and City are still sort of performing as the level they expect to. Maybe Arsenal's dropped off a bit, but Newcastle and Man United have had a terrible start. Newcastle have lost, 3 times already? So that is quite literally that could be, if we go back a few years, sort of the 99 or centenary seasons, 3 losses at the start of a campaign is enough to kill your season if you're at the very top echelons of the Premier League. So if Liverpool keep up the form that we've got, realistically, we've had a really good start to the season, even with the draw against Chelsea, and we're only looking up as more players sort of come back off injury and people get more accustomed to their roles. I think genuinely we could challenge for the title. I think we're a shoo-in for the Europa League. And I think at the very least it's top 4 in the Premier League. I don't want to jinx it, obviously, but it's genuinely possible, like I said, with a bit of luck on our side.
I think having come 5th last season, mate, and then getting that run that we did at the end of the season, how poor it was, tells me it's impossible not to get top 4 this season. Yeah. Just based off, Szoboszlai coming in and McAllister coming in, that freshness in that midfield instead of Henderson and Fabinho. No offense to Fabinho, but Fabinho wasn't at the base of last season, was it? I was hoping he was staying and getting back to his best this time. But what about you, Harmony? Is there a title challenge on for us? And a win this week against Wolves will put us top of the league. I mean, who would have predicted that a year ago?
Yeah, I think I'll say a title challenge is a bit too far for us personally. Only because I think we're about 2 to 3 injuries away from being in absolute, calamity. If we look at the squad, I think top 4 is definitely something that we can achieve. But at the same time, if we are in a good position come January, actually, let me say February, because in January, I don't know what it is. We always have some bad form. We always drop form in January.
AFCON as well this time coming around.
Yeah, I don't get it. But yeah, let's say February, if we're in a good position there, let's say we're like 3 points away from Man City, then I'll feel more confident because I'll be like, okay, you know what, we're the only team apart from Man City that can go on a 15-run game and win. Arsenal can't do that. No other team in the league can do that. Only we can, So, and I think that's the only thing that will give me a bit more confidence because I know Klopp knows how to finish the season, and with the players that we have, with the mentalities that we have, I believe that then now we can actually challenge. But if let's say we're like 7-8 points away from Man City by that point, then I'll be like, okay, no, let's just focus on top 4 and try and get like domestic league cup and a new Europa Cup. And then just focus on the summer and next season. So that's when I'll start feeling more confident if it comes down to if we're gonna challenge or not. So if you can hear the noise in the background, it's just my dog. I don't know why he's crying, but yeah, yeah.
Have you got Ten Hag in your room, mate?
It might as well be. It might as well be at this point. But yeah, regarding Man United, I think they're in a situation where every single season now, if there's not one player that's causing the drama, it's another player that's causing the drama, and they can't seem to find a way to keep the players happy and to keep the fans happy as well. And it'll be interesting to see. Where they finish this season, but I don't think they're finishing above us. Yeah. Mate, he's been for a walk already. He's just been a baby, so don't worry.
Just to touch on to sort of a sec, Joe, before we talk about the same as Harmony mentioned going on a run, someone posted something in our chat that we've got, and Liverpool have got more than double, in terms of unbeaten run. Liverpool are more than double the next team in the league in terms of unbeaten run. That's got to show for something. Yeah. I know last season we weren't great, but I'm sure if it's from game week 20 onwards, Liverpool I think had the second most points in the league. And at this current moment in time, Liverpool are 15 games unbeaten, and then the next team after that is Brentford with 7. So I know let touch wood that I don't jinx us, so we still win tomorrow. But that is a big thing to show, considering we've massively improved the team this season as well. And going back to again what Harmony said before, Liverpool are a few injuries away from struggling, but Man City have already got De Bruyne injuries. If they lose Haaland and Rodri, they drop off massively. Because they're gonna. I know Alvarez. People say he's a good player, but he's not Haaland, and Calvin Phillips is definitely not Rodri. So I think everyone needs to be a bit lucky with injuries. But
Calvin touches Rodri in FSG's eyes, mate.
Yeah, I don't think we'll challenge for the title, by the way. I think City will win it by 10, 15 points, but I think we will be there next season, and I think we will be one of the teams close to, second or third, and I think there's no reason why we shouldn't be as well.
I watched a clip earlier. It was a panel of obviously the main fans, main football fans like your likes of Boovy from Man City and Rory Jennings from Chelsea, things like that. The whole panel basically said they were talking about Arsenal, challenges for City. They all basically said Arsenal,
except for Boovy. Boovy thinks Liverpool. Yeah, I might have seen the same clip. Yeah,
and I tell you why he says that, because he knows he's been in the title challenge with us. He knows, and he is the perfect person to listen to in terms of this, because they've been there and they are the champions. They are the treble winners. If a Man City fan is telling you Liverpool are our closest rivals, listen to him, because he's the one that we're catching. He didn't fear Arsenal last season. When it comes to the end, Arsenal bottled it and didn't even bother bringing a title race to the last month for the season. Liverpool can do that. Liverpool have done that 3-4 times now with Man City, head-to-head, toe-to-toe. There's only Jurgen Klopp that can do that against Pep Guardiola. So if we were going to get 90-plus points, Liverpool are the only team that can do that with City toe-to-toe. Proven. I'm not saying they are the only team that can do that, but it's proven to be that way.
Yeah.
So if you are talking about title race this season, Liverpool should be the one that are pushing Man City. I always think Arsenal. I think it is a 3-horse race. I think it's Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool together, all those three together. I think Man City will win it, if I'm honest. Just because, unless we get a 6 in January, I think that 6 could really push us into proper title contenders and maybe make us win it. But yeah, I think it is a 3-horse race, and after that, I think it's the best of the rest. Is probably what Tottenham, Brighton, and Man United in the relegation zone with Everton. So that'll be it for the tonight, I think, boys. Jurgen Klopp to Germany, Nagelsmann to Liverpool was the report. We've played that on down. Joel Matip is leading at the end of the season. A replacement will be signed next year, whether it be January off or summer. We don't know yet, and what players up in the air is at the moment. We have no idea what the players are. With so many players out there, less centre backs that we've been looking at, we now need a right centre back as well. But we knew this was going to come happen, didn't we, Nif? We said it last time before we were on stream. Barella and Goncalves are the new midfielders we have been linked, and Barella being closer than Inter Milan, according to reports, and Goncalves is high up in Liverpool's priority at the moment, surprisingly, despite we need a number 6. But let's move on to Wolves. Wolves on Saturday, Last Lane's next Thursday. This has been the LSA Tunes Room. This has been me, Damon, Nathan, Harmony, and Naum. Thank you everyone for watching, and make sure you like, subscribe, and get your notification bells on. Thank you.